Shalom, giving all praise to YAHAWASHI, QADASH. This is going to be a short video. I was listening to a video. Give me a second here. Let me see if okay. A.J. Johnson on dating Holyfield in college after he won the Olympics. Well, he didn't win the Olympics. I think he was disqualified. Anyway, A.J. Johnson, let me go to her. Remember her from back in the day. She mentioned she was like a college girl. She's from a college family. The whole family, was expected to go to college. She was a part of a sorority, which is a sisterhood. You have the fraternity, which is a brotherhood, Greek brotherhood, and sorority, which is a sisterhood of a Greek sorority. So she had mentioned that she went to Ghana and she got excited about seeing and going into the, I believe she called it the dungeons, Cape, give me a second. Cape Coast, it's called Cape Coast Castle. And I did a video on this, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but they also call it Cape Coast Dungeons, all right? So I said, let me go to it. Let me get a little information here. Anyway, the name of this video is Revelation 13, 9, and 10. Cape Coast Castle. So I'm just going to read a little bit of it. And they would never teach this in American schools or European schools. They talk about teaching about the Holocaust and so forth, but they would never go deep. And I never heard of this in school anyway, Cape Coast Castle. So let me just do a little bit of reading. Like I said, this is not going to be long. You know what I'm going to do? Let me show you an image. Let me blow this up. Okay, Cape, as you can see, this is Cape Coast Castle. They had Jake living in a dungeon so they could be shipped not just to America, but around the world where Europeans lived. And that was a big moneymaker back then. Here's another image. You can see the cannons there. It says inside the dungeon of Cape Coast Castle, where hundreds of slaves were held in cramped conditions before being transferred to boats bound for the Western Hemisphere, America, and not just America, but around the world. So let me give you a picture of it. Look at that. When you tell me that we are not the people that fit the curses, got to be crazy. And see, you should look at this real good, Esau. Okay, it says Obama and his family inside one of the dungeons during a visit to Cape Coast Castle in 2009. And these people that were in the dungeons that were being shipped to America and other European, mainly America, but other Europeans had slaves too. Like they were against it. No, what the Americans are doing. No, they were part of it too. They worked together. So let me just read some of this. All kind of precepts are coming to your mind, which vocab you can't get around. You can't get around the main scripture that I put up as a title. He called himself he was doing a debate with an individual named Chris Harris. And Revelation 13, 9, and 10 came up, and that devil vocab try to say, well, that's see, the Hebrew Israelites say it means they, other people are going to slavery. And then he came up with some bullshit. No one takes this guy seriously, man. No one takes him seriously. And so-called black people are leaving Christianity every day. What comes to mind? Psalms 2, the whole chapter, mainly around the 8, 9 verse, around there. Isaiah 14, verses 1 and 2. Daniel chapter 7, verse 9 on down. So there's a bunch of scriptures that should come to mind when you get into this reading here. What is that? Exodus 21:16. That's another one. So let me just read here. And Esau. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Psalms 149 from the 5th verse on down to the end, which I believe is like the last verse, the 6th verse, I believe, or the 7th. That's another precept that comes to mind. Anyway, it says Cape Coast, Swedish, Karolsberg is one of about 40 slave castles or large commercial forts built on the Gold Coast of West Africa, now Ghana, by European traders, merchantmen. It was originally a Portuguese forteria, which is a fortress, or trading posts. What do you think they were trading? Us. Established in 1555. That's when, so we're talking 50, 60 years before that, you had Columbus come from one side of the world to the other side of the world. And the first act that he did was he had grabbed up 500 of the natives, which were of the tribes of Israel, and took them back and pretty much bragged and said, man, these people will make good slaves. That's how this devil thinks. But see, the ironic thing about these devils is they don't think they're going to pay. They don't think they're going to go through this, man. That's why they demonize us, which they name Cabo Corso. However, in 1653, the Swedish African Company, so I went into that. I'll probably come back and go into that. Matter of fact, you know what? Let me click on that. The Swedish African Company, Swedish Svenska Afrikanska Kompaniet, which is company, was a Swedish trading company founded in 1649 on the initiative of the Wallon Dutch merchant Louis de Geer. I'll probably click on him, and his son Lorenz, for whom Sweden had become a second home. The primary interest of the company was the trade on Swedish Gold Coast. The establishment of the pseudo-Swedish Africa Company caused much astonishment in the Amsterdam City Council because they were trading in slaves. I'm gonna read it. It says Swedish African Company, right? Founded 1647. Founder Louis de Geer, and that's the devil right there. He was a slave trader along with his son. And you can see that he's an Edomite. defunct 1663, headquarters Hamburg, Stade, Gutenberg, all European areas. Key people, Lawrence de Geer, which is the guy, the devil right there. Hendrik Karloff. Production, what did they deal in? What business did they deal in? They dealt in tobacco, sugar, gold, and African slaves, which they were not African slaves, they were Israelites. So now let me come back. Okay, it says I'm back at Cape Coast Castle, built on the Gold Coast of West Africa, now Ghana, by European traders. It was originally a Portuguese. You got Portuguese. You got what's this guy's name? Let me come back to this guy. This guy from Sweden. Let me come back to him. Louis de Geer. He's from Sweden. So the Swedes were involved in enslaving us, also the Portuguese. It was originally a Portuguese fortaleza or trading post established in 1555, and which they named Cabo Corso. However, in 1653, the Swedish African Company, which I read about, constructed a timber fort there. It originally was a center for the trade in timber and gold. So if they didn't take one slave, they were going to another country that's not theirs and taking their resources, their gold, their timber. It was later used in hold up, let me make sure I'm on the right. Okay, it was mainly used in the transatlantic slave trade. Let's look at that. Let's see what that's all about. There you go. The Atlantic slave trade, transatlantic slave trade, or European American slave trade. Why was it also called the European American slave trade? Because they were trading slaves they would go to Africa, they would go to West Coast of Africa, they would go to Europe, and they would go to the Americas, all right, where Edomites dwelt, involving the transportation by slave traders of various enslaved African people. They were actually Israelites, mainly to the Americas, which is Babylon. The slave trade regularly used the triangular trade. That's your triangular trade. Let me show you. Okay, what they would do is, let me blow this up. Yes, can I blow it up? I don't think so. Anyway, it says, all right, this is America, right? That's Europe. That's Africa. Back to the Americas, or South America. I mean, the south part of North America, which is Florida, mostly doing in the south. So you would have this is why it's called a triangle, as you can see: sugar, tobacco, and cotton to Europe. Then from Europe, you would have textiles, rum, and manufactured goods to Africa, because you had to buy the slaves, right? Then you would come through Africa. Now, if you notice, the ship would be, this is the Atlantic, by the way. The ship would pass South America. I mean, what am I saying? Would pass west coast of Africa. Ghana is up around here. And you got Nigeria, Sierra Leone, so forth. Senegal, all Jake, all the way down to South Africa. So you would pick up stuff, sugar, tobacco, and cotton to Europe from America. You would go down and you would get what? Textiles, rum, and manufactured goods to Africa. And then going back to America, you would have slaves to the Americas. So your first journey would be from the Atlantic to Europe would be sugar, like I said, sugar, tobacco, cotton, and so forth. So they made, anywhere they went, they were making money. They were, any direction that they went in that triangle, they were making money. But the last stop back to America was slaves. And you were considered cargo. So let me okay, so we're back here. I don't got to do too much reading on this, but it says triangular trade or triangle trade is trade between three ports of regions or regions. Triangular trade usually evolved when a region has export commodities. And by the way, we were a commodity. Look up commodity that are not required in the region from which its major imports come. It thus provides a method of rectifying trade imbalances between the above regions. It says the three-way transatlantic trade, known historically as the transatlantic trade, was the Atlantic slave trade. Involved the transportation by slave traders of various enslaved African people, Israelites, mainly to the Americas. The slave trade regularly used the triangular trade route and its middle passage and existed from the 1600s to the 1900s. And we're still in slavery. I got news for you. We're still in slavery. So let's come back. See here. You see the ships. We were considered cargo. So why would they make your stay a pleasant one? See how they stacked us? This is a curse. Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. Don't let that devil vocab tell you anything different. This is Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. So let's come back over here to Cape Coast Castle. It says, let me read on. It says it was later used in the transatlantic slave trade. Other Ghanaian slave castles included Elmina Castle and Fort Christiansburg. So there was a castle named, the name itself is Christiansburg. So they were putting people in slavery while they were praying to their God. So you're going to tell me that you ain't going to pay for this? He that leaves into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saint. And you got this clown vocab saying, no, well, that doesn't mean what the Hebrew, the one was to say it means. Like I said, that's why we don't take you seriously. They were used to hold slaves before they were loaded onto ships and sold in the Americas, especially the Caribbean. This This gate, and for you Caribbeans, a lot of you that like to speak the Queen's English, man, y'all better wake up. This gate of no return was the last stop before crossing the Atlantic Ocean to come to the Americas. Let me see, is there any? I'll read trade history. The large quantities of gold dust found in Ghana was what primarily attracted Europe, and many natives of the Cape Coast used this to their advantage in exchange for gold, mahogany, other locally produced goods, and enslaved captives. Enslaved captives. So they were part of a commodity. They were part of the exchange. Local Africans received clothing, blankets, spices, sugar, silk, and many other items. The castle at Cape Coast was a market where these transactions took place, and we were part of the transaction. Just like you go to a BJ's or a Walmart and you purchase stuff. Well, they used to just purchase, well, let me get all these 5 niggas right here. Just put them in the boat and send them to me. Payback is a bitch. It says at the time, enslaved Africans were a valuable commodity. Let's look up the word commodity. Sugar is a commodity. Gold is a commodity. Come over here. Definition. In economics, a commodity is an economic good, usually a resource, and we were resources that has full or substantial fungibility. That is, the market treats instances of the good as equivalent or nearly so, with no regard to who produced them. And that's how they looked at us. We were commodity. Commodity, a raw material or primary agricultural product that can be bought and sold, such as copper or coffee, and in this case, Negroes, Africans. So we were nothing but commodity. That's why when we came over here, they called us a 3/5 of a man. We wasn't a full man. So like I said, you devils got a lot to pay for, man. Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. It says, at the time, enslaved Africans, which are Israelites, were a valuable commodity in Americas and elsewhere, and slaves were the main trade in Cape Coast. Due to this, many changes were made to Cape Coast Castle. One of the alterations was the addition of a large underground dungeon. What the hell is a dungeon? A dungeon is a room or cell which prisoners, so they made us prisoners, are held, especially underground dungeons, are generally associated with medieval castles, though their association with torture probably belongs more to the Renaissance. When you think about Renaissance, you think about Esau taking all the images down of Jake and putting images up of himself. Period. In what's that? Obilete or bottled dungeon is a basement room, and you can read the rest of this. So it says alterations was the addition of large underground dungeons that could hold as many as 1,000 slaves, our people, waiting export to what? To America. Many European Edomites, Europeans, many European nations flocked to Cape Coast in order to get a foothold in the slave trade. So that was the thing. That's where the money is. Slaves. Slave trade. The history of slavery spans many cultures, nationalities, and regions from ancient times to the present day. So slavery's never gone out of style. So guess what? Slavery's coming back. But the only difference is the shoe's going to be on the other foot. That's why they demonize us, because we're telling the truth. Am I becoming your enemy because I give you the truth? I'm getting a little long, but that's all right. They said the business was very competitive, which led to conflicts. And for this reason, the castle at Cape Coast changed hands many times during the course of its commercial history. When you go into the history of it, they would have wars, and they were sending a mightier army that would take control of the castle, and then they would get all the profits. Let me look at living conditions. In Cape Coast Castle, the underground dungeons was a space of terror, death, and darkness. This stood as a direct juxtaposition to the European living quarters and commanding heights of the administrative quarters, meaning upstairs, above, who live relatively luxuriously. They live good. They wasn't concerned, what about them slaves down there? Are you feeding them right? Well, if we don't feed them today, we'll feed them tomorrow. That's how they thought of us, man. Payback is a bitch. The basement of this imposing fortress was often the last memory slaves had of their homeland before being shipped. And I think about there will be no might in our hand, Deuteronomy 28, around about the 30-something verse. I'm not going to go to it. Somebody can put it in. Off across the Atlantic, right to the Americas, as this signified the beginning of their journey to what? Into slavery, to experience them curses, man. So the Most High wasn't playing. Most High wasn't playing, man. It says in Jeremiah 49 about us drinking that cup, and we drink that cup, man. And the Most High tells Esau, you think you're not going to be, I did it to my own people that I love. And I don't give a shit about you. So what you think I'm going to do to you? Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom. On to the next one.